Apart from fraud, there are also actions employees may take that aren't necessarily illegal, but that are still wrong and go against the best interests of their company. An employee's conduct may not necessarily violate the law or explicit regulations or policies, but any behavior that is irresponsible, careless, or dishonest can still damage the company. This is known as abusive conduct. We can define abuse as unethical or unsound action aimed at furthering your interests at the expense of your company. Abuse typically occurs when employees use company resources for their own benefit, beyond reasonable limits. It's when employees act in bad faith and put their personal interests above the interests of the company. Consider this scenario. Julio is prudent and honest. He generally acts with his employer's best interests at heart. John, on the other hand, has a different attitude. He feels that because he works hard, he is entitled to benefit from the company in all sorts of ways. He feels that he deserves extra perks. John and Julio bump into each other in the supply room. Julio notices that John helps himself to a 12-pack of pens, a handful of pencils, a ream of copier paper, and several boxes of paper clips. Julio casually mentions that that's a large amount of supplies for one person. John responds by stating that he's running low on a few things at home, and his children need some refills for their homework. Also, he feels that the company won't mind him taking a few small items from inventory, since it's not a huge loss for them. He adds that he's grabbing his supplies now because he's heading home early. His family is going away for the weekend. Julio assumes that John took a half day today. However, this is not the case. Instead, John feels entitled to a long weekend and plans to leave early without the company's approval. He justifies his actions by stating that he'll be more productive on Monday if he enjoys a long break. He adds that he had to leave early on other occasions as well, for instance, when he was called in unexpectedly to his other job. John's conduct provides several examples of abusive behavior. He may be right that a few borrowed office supplies and a few hours spent away from his desk are minor expenses for a large company. However, he should consider that the small expenses would add up to a substantial loss if every employee were to feel entitled to pilfer office supplies or take time off without proper approval and documentation. Although most companies permit limited personal use of office services, the key factor is setting reasonable limits and not exploiting company resources. In this example, John's use of company time and assets exceed reasonable limits, and that is what made his conduct abusive. Keep in mind that it's your duty as an employee to uphold a certain level of integrity because you're a representative of your company. You should ensure that your use of company supplies and resources is consistent with the law and your company's policies. In general, your behavior should not compromise your duty to protect confidential information, nor should you support any other business at your employer's expense. Finally, it's important to remember that your behavior should not reflect unfavorably on your company or have the potential to compromise your reputation or the reputation of your company.